Well, I see we are now live on Facebook. So, hello to everybody. Great to have you with us. We have a wonderful moment here. Judy has now completed 2,000 miles on her way from San Diego to St. Augustine, from Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. So, we thought it would be a great time to catch up and take some questions, etc. So, congratulations, Judy. Incredible, incredible to do what you're doing. I'm in awe.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be with you again and enjoying the walk. What can I say? So I've got 2,000 and about 30
Okay.
miles done, which means I have less than 1,000 to go, which is be great.
Amazing, amazing. And where are you today?
I am in New Orleans. I've been in New Orleans for a couple of days because, as most of you who are familiar with New Orleans, it's pretty spread out. So
Yeah.
when you're walking across it, it takes a little while. So I will be leaving Louisiana probably late to and getting into Mississippi sometime tomorrow.
All right.
So I'll give another state to check off, which will be
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is fantastic. And when do you b believe that you're likely to be at the Atlantic Ocean, St. Augustine?
Well, it's hard with the weather being so iffy,
Yeah.
with hurricanes and everything. But fortunately, so far, I haven't been stopped by weather. But I'm shooting for around November 20th. The 20th that week. As I get closer, I'll be able to give a more accurate prediction because there are just so many things that come up and
Sure.
just take it as but that's a rough estimate. Might be a little sooner, might be a couple of days later.
Got it. So it sounds like it's going to be right around Thanksgiving. So you may have to have a Thanksgiving Atlantic snapper or some or grouper or something like that for your Thanksgiving.
That would
Okay.
be terrific.
And tell me, how are you feeling overall? Are your joints doing well? Are your feet doing well? No blister problems? How are things going overall?
Overall, everything's really going well. I'm think I'm very fortunate not to have any ailments or problems with my joints.
Yeah.
I wake up feeling good every morning and I walk a long day. I've learned the rhythm of what I'm doing though, and that is I pace myself
Yeah.
literally. And so I'll walk for a few hours and then I will go back to my support van and I'll change my shoes and change my socks and take a little break, maybe
Mhm.
10, 15 minutes. And then I go back out on the road. And I've been wearing the barefoot shoes
Yeah.
by Zero Shoes, and those just work great for me. I mean, they absolutely, I've not had any blisters or shin splints or any problems walking. So I love them. I've only walked in those shoes from April 5th right up through today. So
And that you
I'll
don't
keep it
find
up.
them any problem with wanting kind of more support or more anything that these things are like, as you say, it's like walking barefoot. And that's not a problem, huh?
No, it really isn't. And if you think about it, how the body is aligned and how we are when we're children and when little
Yeah.
babies learn to walk, their toes are spread out, kind of like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it really helps with balance. And when we wear these elevated shoes with a big cushion, sometimes I've seen some of them look like they're about 2 inches high. It throws your body out of alignment. So you're really walking kind of out leaning forward, and
Yeah.
that it's fine for a short walk or even a marathon, but I've been walking for months every day, and I think that change in alignment would have been very negative for me, and it could
Yeah.
have set up problems with my hips or my knees. This way I've got really good balance, and like I said, no blisters or anything. I do wear wool socks. I think wool socks are important.
Yeah.
And keeping your feet dry so that when it does rain, I end up changing a little bit more frequently. But so far it works really well. I mean, yes, you do feel if you're walking across a rocky area
Yeah.
or stones, you're going to feel them, but that's part of knowing where you're at on the planet, like knowing what your balance is. So there are a few places where there's a lot of gravel that's kind of moved over on the shoulder of the road. And I'm just very aware of looking and making sure I don't step on any glass.
Yeah.
But
Great
the
point.
stones are fine. Yeah, I don't add any extra padding to it. I just wear the shoes as they are.
Yeah. And you are following in the footsteps, as it were, of the great walkers. I think back to when I was a little boy and read about Johnny Appleseed, walking all over the place with the seeds and planting apple trees everywhere. That's really cool. So, what's been the biggest challenge for you coming across the country? I mean, this is an amazing walk that very, very few people have done. What's been the biggest challenge?
Well, that's a great question. And I think about it, and I tend to respond the same way every time. I think the main challenge is staying safe from the traffic. Because getting up every morning and walking, I've got my routine. I get up, I eat something because I need the energy because I'm burning a lot of calories as I walk. So I deviate from my normal which I have, I wait to eat in the morning. Normally, if I'm living at home, I wouldn't eat until maybe 10:30 or 11 o'clock. Now I get up and I do eat because I'm going
Hmm.
to be burning about 3,000 calories a day. So I don't want to lose more. I've already lost about 15 pounds and I don't want to lose any more. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of, I'm grazing. So I think my challenge is to maintain my body weight
Hmm.
and not lose and stay safe on the
Yeah.
road, which
Yeah.
not from people. I mean, I've had dogs come out and packs, and I bought a dog whistle, which
Oh.
works great. They kind of, they stop and they look at me like, whoa, what was that? But I love animals, and I usually just, I don't know, I think I communicate to them that I'm not really afraid of them. On the other
Yeah.
hand, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to invite a pack of dogs to come forward. But
Right.
I've only had that a few times where I've had maybe 4 or 5 dogs kind of circle me, go around as dogs will do. But the people I've met have just been extraordinary. I mean, at least 2 or 3 times a day, people will cross over and change their direction to come up next to me and want to know if I need help. Do I need
Yeah.
water? Am I
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
I've gotten to meet most of the sheriff's offices along the way and the state patrol. They want to know, are you okay? Some people report there's a woman walking on the road,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good.
not something you see.
You've run into a lot of good Samaritans, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. Hopefully not too many serial killers. We want to stick with the good Samaritan side. So, but it's great. And you of course talked recently about the family with it that you were having dinner and meeting the whole family and all that sort of stuff, which is really, really cool. So that's
Yeah.
it's amazing. Let's talk for a minute about your cognition because it's you are now 13 and a half years since you and I first met at the Buck Institute and you first had been told by your doctor that there really wasn't anything to do and that you had the same thing that your mother had died from and there really wasn't anything that they had to offer you there. So you're doing great. How have you felt good? Obviously you've been doing the protocol so well for 13 and a half years. Have you felt good with walking across the country?
I have actually, Dr. Bredesen. I felt really good and I felt sharp. I
Hmm.
think that I mean, I go through a lot of exercises mentally when I'm walking to be aware and to always I don't just daydream and walk in a daze. I mean, I'm looking at traffic, I'm looking where I'm walking. I observe everything I see along the way,
Hmm.
and I make mental notes of it. I even play a few word games of how many
Yeah,
items have I seen today? Can I
yeah,
remember all of them and can I
yeah,
recite them backwards? So I make my own brain games as I go along. But I haven't noticed any foggy thinking at all or
yeah,
I think anything, quite the contrary. I think it's the oxygen and the fact that I'm exercising so
yeah,
much that My blood flow is really good. Therefore, my delivery of oxygen is
Yeah.
excellent. So,
Yeah.
and my
Yeah.
aura ring tells me great things about my sleep quality, about my HRV, all of my indicators. I'm getting optimal, optimal, optimal. So
Wow.
yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I think wearables have been so helpful for so many people. And as a physician, in the 20th century, we could wait for people to have symptoms and then say, okay, you're getting pneumonia or you're getting a urinary tract infection or whatever it is, and then treat at that time. In the 21st century, with all the complex chronic illnesses, with cognitive decline, with other neurodegenerative conditions, heart disease, even cancers and things like that, by the time the symptoms show up, it's relatively late in the process. And therefore, the wearables are so helpful because you can see, where do I stand? I check mine every morning. How much deep sleep did I have? How much REM sleep did I have? What was my oxygen saturation? What was my total sleep time? All that stuff. Very helpful. CGMs obviously are really changing the world.
Hmm.
I've been so surprised that, and many physicians have said, well, you don't need a CGM until you have diabetes. No, the whole point is to have a CGM so that you don't get diabetes. I mean, I think that's the key. So these things are essentially early warning systems for all of us. And of course, cognitive testing and cognitive training will be right in there. You can see things changing. So
Hmm.
I think it's great that
Absolutely.
you're doing an Aura Ring, and it sounds like you're getting some great blood flow and oxygenation and all that good stuff. So we've got a number of excellent questions here. So they've got some questions for you. First one says here, are you walking mostly on concrete or on the earth so that the amount of force returning is through your feet is less? And what's your approximate rate of walking or jogging if you don't if you do mild jogging as well? So I know you had said before you're covering about 20 miles a day. Is that still the case?
That's right. Yeah, some days less if it's extremely hot or humid. I
Yeah.
find it takes me a little bit more. I mean, I had high heat in the desert. It would even
Yeah.
got up to
Yeah.
116 degrees sometimes, but it was very dry, and I seem to function very well on that dry heat. Now that I'm in the sort of southern, swampier areas where there's a lot of humidity, I find that that's a little harder, even though the temperature has been like today was 90 degrees in Louisiana. And I'm pretty close along the Mississippi River, and then there's a swampy area along the road near me. And so there's a lot of moisture in the air. And I find that is a bit more, I feel a little bit more physically stressed from the
Yeah.
high humidity than I did on the high heat. Now, to answer the question that was posed, and it's a great question. What I do sometimes is I am often, it depends on the road, but I often walk where there's a shoulder on the road. And
Yeah.
most of the shoulders are paved. So they're concrete, not
Yeah.
concrete, but they're asphalt.
Yeah.
When that gets really hot though, at the day, I might walk on the grass if there's a smooth cut grass, or like today. I had a bit of a sandy side to it, like maybe a foot into the off the shoulder, and that felt really comfortable because it's cooler and it's softer. So, but really, at the end of the day, I haven't noticed any big problems with, with the feet in that case. But I know that it's healthier to walk on grass and soft things. But I walk on whatever's presented. I have had some trails I've been on. And when I have an opportunity to go through a state park, they usually have a softer, like a trail to walk on. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of, I'm very motivated to go from point A to point B at the nearest nearest distance or shortest distance. And I am using the Adventure Cyclists Association mapping so that
Mhm.
they've already
Mhm.
tried and true these roads and
Yeah.
for bicyclists. And while bicycles can ride on like interstates, but pedestrians cannot. So whenever that happens, I have to look for a smaller road or something that
Right.
I can walk on, which I prefer anyway. I mean, I like the smaller roads. So, um,
Yeah.
so you sometimes you don't have a choice, but I did want to say, well, I'll let you go ahead with more questions because I'm interested in what people are interested in hearing
Yeah.
about. So I'll try to answer.
So there's a question here of if you talk a little bit more about the shoes, they're saying cross training or running shoes. You already talked a little bit about. If you could say again, the shoes that you've chosen and why you've chosen them.
Okay, so before I started the walk, I did some research into shoes. I'm a former marathon runner, so I've done the whole
Yeah.
Nikes and the or Adidas and all of those, and I've always chose the running shoe that was what was promoted. And then I went for a number of years where I didn't run any races, and when decided to do the walk, I started researching it again and really reading about foot injuries and knee injuries and things like that. And the more I read about barefoot shoes, the more I thought, this sounds like a logical idea. It makes sense to me. I'm a yoga teacher also, and balance and not falling is like my mantra, don't
Yes.
fall. And my coaching clients, I really talk to them about really trying to make sure they keep their balance and they don't fall. So when I started looking at these shoes, and realize that one of the main features is they help you with balance. And the reason is your toes are a little bit wider apart. They're not squeezed into like a
Yeah.
small
Right. Right.
space. And then you're not elevated. I mean, it makes total logical sense to me that this would be the right choice. So I sent away on Amazon. I just ordered any pair. I didn't have a name brand or anything. And I got my first pair and I started walking in them. And all the advice is that you don't just go out and run a marathon in them. You've got to break them in, you've got to get
Right.
used to it. And then I said, well, I like these. And I started looking at the companies who were making them. There's several really good companies, but I came across Zero Shoes and I reached out to their CEO, to Steve Sashen, and told him about my walk. And he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
very enthusiastic. And he said, we would love to send you some shoes. And that's what he
Right.
did.
Yeah.
And therefore I've only been walking in those shoes, but I think and I'm very appreciative of those shoes because I did need a number of different pairs just because one day I was walking in the rain and they got really wet. Well, the next day I want to make sure I'm walking in a dry shoe. So I think it's important to have more than one pair of shoe. But I'm just kind of sold on the idea that this is the right way to go, and this is good for me. It might not be good for everyone, but I'm I definitely would do that if I had to do this again, which I probably won't do. I would choose the same shoes.
Yeah. Fantastic. And then there's someone who's asking about what safety measures you're taking and what support items you've been using.
Okay, well, the safety measures, I'm not wearing it right now, but I have one of those very brightly colored vests that we see construction workers on the road and road workers wearing. That's reflective and it's made out of a netting. So that gives reflection and it's also lightweight. So I wear that when I'm walking so that people can see me. And for the sun, I carry a red umbrella.
Mhm.
I had to buy a new one because I wore out my first umbrella. But I have the red umbrella and you might notice, and I guess people are tired of seeing me. And I bought about five of these cotton yellow dresses because they're like a road sign. You can see that with the red umbrella.
Yes.
So it's about being seen and also about keeping your wits about you that you don't you pay attention. I get eye contact with drivers, and I've noticed that some people they see you, and they see you, and the car goes toward you. It's like the car goes where their eyes are going.
Oh
So
my
then
gosh.
they realize and they go
Yeah.
back, but that's been sort of scary moments a little bit. But
Yeah.
most drivers are so courteous, particularly truck drivers and professional drivers. They will see me down the road and they always, if it's safe for them to move over a lane,
Yeah.
they will move over. They're just really courteous and I really appreciate them. And I think we don't show enough gratitude for the people who transport all the goods that we use all the time and buy. I mean, I run into them at truck stops and talk to them at cafes. They're just a great group of people. So I really send out a shout to all of our drivers who transport things for us. Um,
Yeah. So, essentially, one of the most inspirational points to me from what you've been doing is that, the world is crazy right now. Wars ongoing, people are killing each, it's horrible. And there's so much polarization and, so many issues ongoing in the government. Is the government going to be shut down? All this stuff is just going on. But what you're showing as you're walking across the country is that the majority of people you're interacting with are very positive, and that
mhm.
there is an America out there, which is really fantastic to hear that there are good people out there helping. There are good Samaritans working with you. That is a really a reassuring thing to hear. So I
Yeah.
think you're bringing that to all of us. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I did want to say though that part, going back to my original reason for doing the walk is to bring attention to the
Yeah,
fact that Alzheimer's does not have to be a death sentence that you sit around and throw up your hands and you do nothing and get really depressed. And when I got that diagnosis, I decided I'm going to do everything I possibly can to fight this. And luckily,
yeah,
I was referred to you, and I'm so grateful, eternally grateful for that. And then the other thing is that I've really followed the recommendations. And what I see now, and the reason is to call attention to this, and I've said this, I know people are tired of hearing me say this, but almost everyone I meet and stop them, and I hand out one of the cards that shows about the walk and gives our foundation, our Alzheimer's Survivors Foundation website on it, so
yeah, yeah,
people can look up. And
yeah.
it's like we exist,
Right,
we
right.
exist. There are survivors of
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, and that's the big message. So I've really been encouraging people, and almost everyone says somebody in their family, a loved one, somebody close to them, and
Yeah,
they want to know, what can I do? And I can't in 2 minutes tell somebody
right.
everything they need to do, but I can refer them. And this is what I'm really thrilled that I've been able to do with so many, many people.
Yeah, and there's so much you can get evaluated, and you can get checked, get your brain scan, blood tests, and your things like that. That really helpful. And that is an issue. Everybody understands that in cancer, the game was changed when they moved earlier diagnosis. Things like pap smears just changed the likelihood of survival so dramatically. Colonoscopies, as unpleasant as many people find them, they've really helped people survive what would have been cancer. And if we can just get people to understand that the same thing is true for Alzheimer's. Now we can detect it early. Now there are early blood tests. You can go in, don't wait. Whereas the old message was, you might as well wait because there's nothing we can do about it anyway. Now it's get in as early as possible, and we really can do. The earlier, the easier, and the more complete. So I think it's a really important message. One of the people here is asking also, have any police officers stopped you to see what you are doing?
Yes, yes, and yes. All the way from the Border Patrol when I was around California and Calexico and those areas. I had all the Border Patrol, and I finally told them, why don't you guys radio to each other and just tell them about the crazy lady with the red umbrella?
Yeah, yeah,
Because they were stopping me several times a day. But I always, they're very polite, very gracious, and all of the local, in the rural areas, it's usually the sheriff's office. So you have the sheriff's deputies, and the people report me walking on the road, so they will stop and get my information and
yeah,
so forth, and I hand out a card to them, and they
yeah,
said, oh, we're going to follow you on your website. So that's what we want people to
yeah.
follow so they can learn more information. But yes, I do get stopped a lot.
I do think that is one of the biggest problems, and you're addressing that very well, which is that people are told there's nothing you can do. And so they just kept, wait, and it's just really unhelpful. So if you can just change people's minds to get in early, get to the right place, get to train people who are trained in recode protocol, can be very helpful. There's another one here. This is from Lynette, who's saying, Judy, keep up this amazing journey. I am cheering you on. So thank you to Lynette for that. And then here's one from Catherine who says, "You continue to amaze me, us, Dr. Dale Bredesen, MD." Okay, great. And it says special blessing. So thank you very much to Catherine. I think there are a lot of people behind you. Well, there's another one here from Tim. "So much peace and great depths in grace. Amazing." So thank you to Tim for that. There's a lot. This is a time, we're seeing things that we've never seen before. Just in the last 2 months, number one, we have an example where an arterial spin labeling, which is a very sensitive MRI technique, we've seen one which in an ApoE44 who already had significant symptoms, was in third of 4 stages, turn completely normal. And that's never been documented before.
Oh,
We have
amazing.
examples of people who continue to improve after 6, 7, and more years. So something that I thought would be rare to after that many years to continue to get improvement. We're seeing it repeatedly now. Wonderful example from Carrie Rutland in New York of her patient who actually got back her three-dimensional vision, which is wonderful. So we're hearing things that have and documenting things. We've got tremendous results from the trial, and the trial is going to finish now October 31st. So there are so many positive things. We're learning more and more about how to do this better and better. We're getting people to come in earlier, which is making a huge difference. So we really are in a time of great progress, which I think is perfect for your amazing walk across the country.
Well, yeah, you're gonna finish your trials, and then I'm gonna finish my walk. And the documentary filmmakers are making a wonderful film
Yes,
about you and your trials, and a little bit about my walk.
your walk.
So
Yeah,
we're gonna have a grand finale here in St. Augustine in October, November. So this is
yeah.
very good.
Such a great thing to celebrate. It's amazing. There's some more questions here. One is Oura Ring the only wearable you have been using? Have you been tracking other health metrics, basic weight, blood pressure, blood sugar, or anything else? And if not, did you get baseline markers before your journey to compare to after your journey?
A great question. I did get baseline markers, and I also did midway point when I was in Austin, Texas.
Yeah,
I had another round of blood work done by a wonderful functional medicine doctor who's trained in recode. And I found and I shared those results with you. And I think about the only thing that wasn't right on the money was was slightly dehydrated.
yeah,
And I think that makes sense. I try to drink enough, but it does, it's hard to
yeah,
constantly. Since I got those results, of course, I've been drinking a lot more. So yes. And then other wearables, I have an iWatch, and I also have a pedometer, so I check my steps with
yeah,
both the iWatch, and I have an old fashioned. I don't have it on right now, but I have a old fashioned pedometer, and I look at basically all the numbers. My glucose has been always been really good, or has been for the last several years. So, and my
right.
diet is quite good. So I'm not really concerned about that. My A1C is good, and well, you could speak to that. You saw my results, so you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. They looked, as I said, the only thing I saw was some mild dehydration. So keep those electrolytes flowing. You had been through some really hot weather. I think that was part of the issue.
Mhm.
How is the weather currently in terms of have you run into too much heat recently or no?
Well, no, the temperature has gone down to in
Yeah,
the high 80s and low 90s. And that might sound like a lot to some people, but based on what I had experienced, it wasn't
yeah,
bad. It really is just the days that are just super humid. What happens is you go out, and as soon as I walk maybe 20 minutes, I'm completely wet from the perspiration because there's so much humidity going on. So, I've kind of adapted to that, and I know that I need to drink a lot in those situations. So I'm literally just drinking as I go.
yeah. Do you have a sense for how much you're drinking each day?
I was for a while measuring it, but now I know that I have my two flasks that are each 24 ounces, so that's 48 ounces. And then I will stop into various when there's, a fast food place, I'll get an iced tea, or I get some more water, I fill up. and then I will stop every couple of hours and replenish that. So I don't know. It's above 64 ounces. I know it's probably about more like 128 ounces, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, great.
Maybe not as much as I should, but I'm doing as best I can with
Yeah, yeah, I
it.
think you're doing well. And you know, you'll notice that if you really get more, truly clinically dehydrated, you won't have the energy and you may get lightheaded and you'll notice changes. So yeah,
Mm.
keep it on the good side. You're doing so many things right. Another question was, did you participate in high amounts of exercise before this journey?
I did not, but I have to say that I've been an exercise person and do daily yoga and daily sauna prior to for several years before I started the walk. So I have a sauna at home, an infrared sauna, which I think is very important for overall good health for anyone. So I would take
No.
a 30-minute sauna every day. I do yoga every day, and then I exercise generally at the gym and do some weight training. But I
Right.
wasn't training for the walk because I didn't know how to train for a walk because I tried it a couple of weekends where I walked all day and I thought, well, I don't have enough time to walk every day to
Yeah, yeah,
train. So I'll
yeah.
just do it when I'm on the road,
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah.
All right. The next one here is saying, is asking, have you been using any supplements, herbs, or stimulants like coffee, for example, to keep you powered throughout the day and going? I'm in my 70s and know my energy isn't much the same as in earlier years, of course. Pleasantly surprised you've been able to go the distance you have. Yeah, of course, you've got UCAN as well that you're using. So if you could talk
Hmm.
a little bit about the things that you are typically taking.
Yes, and UCAN is one of my sponsors, and that's spell a capital UCAN. And
Yeah,
I would urge people to go to their website. It's a very interesting company doing really great things. And they kindly provided me with hydration powder that I mix in with water, with energy gels, that is a form of very easily metabolized without having sugar in it. So
yeah,
they're little packets of gel. I take those. They also have an energy drink that you mix up in addition to the gels, and they have a protein powder. So
yeah,
they have protein bars. I'm not as big a fan of bars. Just I don't know why. I just feel like I like. Well, let me just say I like eat a real food like an
yeah,
apple or
yeah,
something, rather than something that is produced. But they have very good. They do have very good energy bars. But I've used their products and their energy packets, the little gel. I mean, I will take two of those with me in my little pouch as I start out in the morning, and I put some nuts in there, and just things. Sometimes I'll eat a little bit of cheese, even though I'm not a big dairy eater, but I will
yeah,
have cheese. I do drink. I have 1 cup of coffee in the morning, and sometimes I'll have an iced coffee in the middle of the day. I think I love coffee. I've always been a coffee drinker, but I don't drink it in excess. And the caffeine seems to work fine for me. I get great sleep reports, and I'm sleeping very, very well. So I don't think it's the caffeine is affecting my sleep. And people metabolize caffeine in different ways, and I seem to metabolize it very well. It doesn't. I don't think it's really bothering me. So I don't feel like I get a particular boost from it, but
yeah,
I think it's like exercise begets more exercise and energy. I feel like the more that I can continue to move, the more I feel like moving, if that makes
yeah,
sense. I
yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
yeah. And of course, you're, pushing up that BDNF and helping your brain connections and all those good things, which is great. Sherry is asking here, how are you handling air pollution while you walk through the cities? Are you doing extra antioxidants or something? Are you doing anything to counteract the air pollution when you're going through cities?
That is another excellent question, and it is something that concerns me, and because there's so much pollution out, and I'm walking now along the Gulf and the Gulf of Mexico, where there's a lot of refineries, and they're burning off the fuel. You can see the flames
Yeah.
in the refineries. I'm
Mm.
also walking along the road where you get the toxins from people stepping on the brakes. It gives out toxins, just the burning of the fuel. So I did wear a mask for a while, but I found it was too hot and I really didn't feel comfortable with the mask. And I'm not sure even how effective it was.
Right.
But what I do take glutathione. I take to try to get rid of the toxins. I take some general supplements that I've been taking all along. I take urolithin A,
Mhm.
MitoPure. I take that. That seems to also it gives your mitochondria a little boost. And I think at the smallest unit of analysis for energy is our mitochondria. And
Yeah.
when we get older, we don't have very robust mitochondria. So I try to build that up as well. So I do think that taking the glutathione is helpful for me. And I also sometimes I get exposed to mold just inadvertently. I don't have any mold in my RV, that's my support vehicle, but occasionally you just
Thankfully.
smell it in the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just there.
Yeah. And certainly, yeah, depending on where you stay, et cetera. Of course, you've got your van, which is it's great that you don't have that problem. But yeah, we run into so many people who have cognitive issues who don't realize that they are being exposed day in, day out to these mycotoxins. And until they get rid of that, it's really going to be a challenge. Now, there's one here from Robert who's saying, Judy, how are you doing 13 and a half years ago when you and I first met? As far as cognition, and you wrote beautifully about that in The First Survivors of Alzheimer's, that book, and talked about how you were struggling with getting lost, not knowing where to go sometimes, even in areas that were, that were quite familiar. Calling your pets the wrong name, reaching the wrong place for the turning on the lights. Maybe you could tell a little bit to Robert here about, what was going on at that time. What took you in to see the doctor about your cognition?
Well, I had watched my own family, particularly my mother, struggle with Alzheimer's for 20 years. She was diagnosed at age 63. She passed away at 83. And she
Mm,
was a really dynamic businesswoman, active person, certainly not somebody who just sat around and did nothing. She was active until she got sick with Alzheimer's in her business. And
mm,
I watched those symptoms slowly come on, like little by little by little, you're forgetting things, then you get lost. And my mom would go for a drive and they would find her someplace in her car and she didn't know how she got there. And
yeah,
after she passed away a number of years ago, but when I myself started having those same feelings, I remember I went to visit my son and his wife one evening. I went in the afternoon and I stayed until after dark. And I'd been there many, many times. And I got in my car to go home and I got lost. I mean, in familiar places. Not only did I get lost, but I got completely frustrated. And the more I got turned around, the more nervous and upset I got, to the point where I just couldn't find my way. And things like that started happening more and more. I couldn't remember. I'd read an article in the newspaper and I'd have to go back to the top paragraph to read it
yeah,
again, because by the time I finished, I didn't know what I'd read. I've always been an avid reader, and I would read a book and I just couldn't finish a book. So all those symptoms, I knew what they were because I had seen it in my own family. And
yeah,
it was it was like the dreaded slippery slope, and I felt myself sliding down it. And then when I went to doctors, and I also had some scans and found that I did have a lot of plaque, and a doctor gave me the diagnosis that I didn't want to hear. Um, I felt like the writing was on the wall, and I could do two things. I could throw up my hands and just give up, or I could fight it. And I chose to fight it. And that's really what I encourage everyone to do. Research, find, learn about, what people are doing. And that's why we started the Alzheimer's Survivors
mm,
Foundation.
yeah,
That's because we exist and people
exists.
need to
Yeah,
know that. So I would urge anyone to go there and sign up. We have a newsletter. We're just starting. We're new. We're taking baby steps, but it started since I've been walking. And we're really hoping to be able to get the message out by people sharing their own stories
yeah,
and their own testimonies. Because really, most cases are different. People have different experiences, and
Yeah,
for some people, it's just mold or industrial or agricultural pollutants. Glyphosate, for example, can cause your
right.
brain not to work, and people don't realize that. So we try to, as your protocols clearly states, you eliminate all of those inflammatory things that are happening to your brain, and you get better. Like, does everybody get better at the same rate? No, but as
Yeah.
you said correctly, start early. Don't wait until you're in a nursing home because
Right.
you've already lost a lot of brain cells then.
Yeah, the earlier you start, the easier it is, the more complete it is, that sort of thing. So yes, don't wait. And don't, people say, well, I feel silly. It's fairly minor still. Well, yeah, but it's headed for something major. So don't
Mhm.
wait. And because it's so much easier early on. Although, again, we do see people even with MoCA scores of 0 improve, but when they improve, they can then dress themselves again and speak again, but they don't tend to come all the way, back to normal. So the earlier, the easier and the more complete. There's a question here about supplements other than urolithin A and your diet. And of course, I want to make sure that people understand this is not the same problem for each person. Some people it's more inflammatory, some people it's more toxic, some people it's more metabolic, some people it's more atrophic. Some people it's more vascular. So it's really important to work with someone who's well trained, where you can then find out what are the things driving this and then address those things. But if you could maybe say little bit about what you're doing in terms of supplements, and then a little bit about what sort of, I know you're eating a plant-rich, mildly ketogenic diet, but if you could talk a little bit about that.
Mhm. Okay, sure. So I had my DNA. I wanted to know, like, I don't want to
Yeah.
know my DNA because, as you say, we're all different. So I went with Intellect's DNA. There are also
Mhm.
other firms that do a really good job of analyzing where
Mhm.
your SNPs are and where. And for myself, I don't methylate well, so I get toxins. I will not throw off toxins like mold, mycotoxins as easily as somebody else might. So I make sure that I take my methylated B vitamin, my B complexes as well, as I also, when I was tested and went through a lot of the tests, found that I was deficient in pregnenolone, for example. So I
Right.
take pregnenolone. My vitamin D was low, and most people, it's amazing how many people their vitamin D is low. So I take vitamin D3 with K2 because that puts it in the right place in your body.
Yeah.
And I take a general multivitamin that sort of checks the boxes on a number of different vitamins. But I do probably I don't take as many as I'm traveling as I did when I was at home because just the maintenance of it and making sure they don't overheat in the van and that kind of thing is a little bit more of a challenge for me. But I want to make sure I've got enough vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin D, my B vitamins, and the either something to get, your DHA and EPA, getting
Right.
your all of
Mhm.
your oils. Some people take fish
Yeah.
oil, others just eat. I eat the diet that I have now is another sponsored trifecta that has a
Mhm.
home delivery prepared organic and healthy meals, and you can choose whether you want to be keto or whether you want to be
Yeah.
eat meat or vegetables. And I choose the one that is mostly a keto, a mildly ketogenic, but I also have I have fish and shrimp as part of the protein because at my age, I'm 81 now, and I want to make sure that I get enough protein on a
Right.
daily basis. And as otherwise, I'm pretty much a vegetarian and fruits. I don't eat a red meat or chicken. I don't say that it's bad. It's just that by my own personal preference, I don't.
Right.
So I make sure that I get enough vegetables, and a good blend of vegetables, cauliflower, broccoli, peas. I do get some of the lentils were a little higher in the carbohydrates than some people. Again, I'm burning so many calories that I'm eating a little bit more carbs than I would at home. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm on the ideal keto diet, but and I'd also want to be very careful not to lose any more weight. So
Yeah.
I'm eating, I'm grazing a lot, which
Good. Good.
I don't do at home.
Yes. And as you said, you have a lot of plants. You are vegetable heavy and fruits and that sort of thing. We're running out of time here, but I just want a couple quick things. One here, Michelle is asking, what part of the protocol did you find most difficult to adjust your life to, and what part of the protocol were those closest to you shocked by?
Let's see. Let
Okay.
me think about that one for a second. I think the shocking part, and not everybody, of course, knows everything that you do. So the
Yeah.
people who are most shocked would be your family members and closest friends.
Yeah.
And since they've always known me to be a fairly active person into a lot of things, I think it was really strictly looking at a gluten-free, for example, being
Yeah.
gluten-free.
Yeah.
And I used to be such a big bread, give me a, New
Yeah.
York bread or bagels and everything. So for me to give up those things, they found that that was shocking. How could you possibly give up something like that? I've never been a huge dessert eater, but I do now and then, I'd like to eat something like ice cream. But, and I tell my clients this too, I just started to look at those things with almost a skull and crossbone on them. So let's
Yeah.
say you've got a big banana pie or something like that,
Yeah.
cream
Yeah.
pie. And I look at it, it's like, what is that going to do to my brain? If I
Yeah.
eat that sugar and I drive up my glucose and my pancreas and my liver, they all start putting out and I become insulin all this stuff. So I look at it as what harm it's going to do to my body. And so
Yeah.
that became a very easy now it's a habit. I mean, after 13 years, I just wouldn't even think about eating certain things. So I don't feel like I'm not sacrificing or missing
Right.
anything.
And I understand, was it the government in Baton Rouge had they honored you in some way? Is that correct? Did they recognize your long walk?
That did the mayor of Baton Rouge, Mayor Edwards. He was charming.
Yeah.
He's a former high school football coach, and he's a
Wow.
big fella. So we have a picture taken together. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's like twice my height, you know. But he very graciously awarded me with a proclamation and a commentation about doing the walk and what a good
Yeah.
example it was. And I also got one in Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
which was very nice. So now I've got lots of things to frame and put on my wall at home with
Yeah.
my other diplomas. So I'm very, very honored. It's very touching that people do recognize
Yes.
that.
And
So.
you've also been on TV a number of times with various news groups talking to you about what you're doing and asking questions and stuff, right?
And podcasts, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've had a number of, maybe not as many as I would like, because the whole idea is to get the word
For
out.
that.
So if
Yeah.
anybody has any pull at any TV stations or networks, I'm
Yes.
all ears. I'd be happy to do it. I love doing the interviews. We had basically CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, and some other local news have done interviews, and then from podcasts. So I've got a few podcasts coming up that I'll be a guest on, and
Yeah.
I'm very happy to do it because that's a good following when you can do that. People listen to what you have to say,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's the whole idea. Get the word out.
Well, congratulations once again. This is such an important message. Arguably one of the most important messages to people that, you don't have to suffer decline in your cognition, which is so,
Yeah.
so common. And so to be able to avoid that is fantastic, and getting that word out is huge. You've now been on the road spreading that word for about 5.5 months. And you're coming down the home stretch here. You've got a couple of more months to go, but you've got 2,000, over 2,000 of the, I guess, just under 3,000 total. Is that right? Miles.
Yes, that's right. It's funny because if I Googled it, if you're driving
Yeah,
from going from San Diego to St. Augustine, it comes up with, I don't know, 3,089 or 69 miles.
yeah,
But when I did it on the bicycle route and I added up, for some reason, it's a little bit less. So it's, whatever it is, I'm doing that and I'm
yeah,
taking GPS records every day. I'm keeping meticulous logbook
yeah,
as well as a digital because I want to be able to show every point along the way and just to show that this can be done. It's just one step at a time,
yeah,
and that's all it is. It's not that hard for me to do, and I just appreciate all of the attention and support. And I'm sorry I can't answer everybody's comments on the Instagram and the TikTok. I love reading them, but I just don't have the time to answer. So maybe after the walk I will
yeah.
be able
I
to.
think everybody understands. You've got a lot of stuff going on here. So people can follow you at judywalks.org, see what's going on, and also be aware of the Alzheimer's Survivors Foundation, which you founded. More and more, we're getting more and more people who are long-term survivors, which is so great to see. So
Yeah, and let
congratulations.
me, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but it's
No,
judywalks.com is my website
but but
with
org
Apollo.
works.
Judy Walks, yeah, or if it does, okay, then
Yes,
I've
it
learned
does.
something new. And Judy Walks America will also put it to the Instagram and the TikTok. And
Ah,
then
good.
my foundation is Alzheimer's Survivors.org or dot com. Okay.
I'm a
So
survivor.
I don't know if we
Okay.
can get all of that in the notes or not, but it's a lot.
Yeah, but lots of ways for them to interact with you, which is great. So congratulations once again. Thank you for your diligence. Thank you for your commitment. It's fantastic. You are helping so many people. And as patient zero, you've influenced thousands and thousands of people all around the world who have hope where there wasn't any before. So thanks for what you're doing and look forward to additional follow-ups.
Thank you for all that you've done. You saved my life, and I'm very, very grateful. So thank you very much, Dr.
Always great to
Bredesen.
hear people doing well. Thank you. And we'll sign off and thanks to Apollo for setting this up and for supporting it. And thanks to everyone. Everyone stay safe
I
out there. Stay safe with your walking, Judy.
thank you. I'll do my
Okay.
best.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.